episode 112 of For No Particular Reason with your hostess with the mostest, Kerri Lewis, alongside with my amazing, dear, beautiful friend, Yanko. And we show up every week to talk about anything, everything, and nothing in between. And today we have an amazing friend of mine who I recently connected with. And we're super excited to hear all about Nick Faulkner and your books, which I happen to have a pseudo copy of your second book that has not been published yet, and all the things about you. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and connecting with you in person the other day was an amazing experience. Your tree is still there waiting for you.
I was telling Yanko about the tree. Yeah. I was like, me and that tree had... Listen, for the listening audience, if I move today, I'm going to move because my energy is flowing and I need to move my body. So, and that's what, Nick, you're referring to in terms of the tree. I had to hug that tree for dear life because it was helping me move that energy out. So... So, okay, talk to the listening audience. So you wrote a book, okay, Angelic
Physics.
Yep. And you're in the process of writing, well, several other books I happen to know, but one that I have a pre-copy of, one because it's not finished. But talk to us about who you are and how this book came about.
Oh, well, who I am, having described the ego, is always always difficult. Well, I started out in the traditional academic route. I went to college as an electrical engineer, was part of the academic elite, so-called, which Kerri and I talked about. We have a mixed feeling on that whole world. And then went into the military as an officer, nuclear engineer, was following this societal path. Then spent 14 years as an unconventional physics teacher. And now I'm at massage therapy school, which is going awesome. And that's actually me and Kerri met through a mutual acquaintance there. And life is rearranging really fast. I believe we're in a massive consciousness shift right now, and we're all part of that. And I feel like, we were talking about Kerri, I started out as a caterpillar, and I feel like I'm transforming into a butterfly. And right now, a lot of us are in that goopy stage,
I love it.
Goopy as hell.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and me are both nerds over Hawkins. So we both I became aware of the fact that I'm a spiritual being through science, whereas some people back into it through spirituality, theology. How did you come to write your first book? Where did that, how did that manifest?
Well, I'll start off with I really came into spirituality. I know we have Course in Miracles in common, but Hawkins was my big connection, because for those of us who come from the science world, his writings are pretty number and science heavy. So that was a connection point for me. And I consider my book kind of a continuation of his work with his kinesthesiology. Where that came from, I was living a normal life a couple months before my 40th birthday, and it's tough to describe those spiritual experiences, those grand ones, because I don't think you really can. Two high-level beings, if you want to call them angels, great, came and visited me in my living room, and life was never really the same. Hawkins talks about, after those spiritual experiences, I think he took 30 years to process it. I'm 7 years in, and I feel like I'm just chipping away at it. And if life had been in different circumstances, I would have just went into nature and never looked back. But I had a mortgage, a life at the time, so I've been kind of adjusting on the fly. And I think a lot of us are going through that now, because The world needs us.
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
glad you brought this up though, because a lot of people right now, when they're going through it, they don't know what they're going through, and it's a good point that you brought it up. Do you scratch that in your book? Do you like have more information of like what? I mean, I'm sure people can probably get ascension symptoms on the internet and find more information, but is there a section? Did you like cover that?
Oh yeah. Thank God for Doc in his writing, because I mean, I was destined to find that. But if after that 2019 experience, if I wasn't already pretty familiar with Doc, I would have had no intellectual clue what I was going through, because everything was changing so fast, and I was seeing a multi-dimensional world, and no one around me at the time had just a clue. That's why I was blessed to find Kerri, because she's one of the rare people you can talk to. It's like, oh, I'm not as crazy as I thought. There's someone going through, and we're going through the process in a very different way, but at the same time,
Right.
very similar
Yeah.
process. Yeah, great thing about Doc's teachings, and it's big in my book, is when you're in that growth process, karma is coming up fast. I mean,
Yes.
like when I think we've all had those periods of life where we have like a couple years in there where things are just going great, like and your life is smooth. You see your finances just building, and those periods are great rest periods. But when you're actually, your soul is growing, um, everything is coming back. The shadow self is coming back in a hurry, and yeah.
That's a good point about the shadow self, because a lot of the people, I mean, in my personal experience, I'm not going to talk about everybody else, but the shadow, it's there, and it was just ignored. And when it came out in the face, and it's like, okay, here it is, you got to deal with it now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't. And you're right about the karma too. I started to recognize patterns coming back. It wasn't just like like day to day go by to just go by, but then certain things start to like stand out from the rest of the things. Was that kind of the experience you had too,
Hang on,
or?
I'm cutting in real quick because two
Oh, go
things.
ahead.
One, the irony of you talking about the shadow self and you're in the dark today just is not lost upon me. So shout out to the universe for your camera being funky. And second of all, let's talk about this for the listening audience, because again, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around what karma is. And so how do you guys understand personally what karma means for you?
I think ultimately one of the big laws of the universe is the energy you put out eventually comes back.
Yes.
And my first, I know, Yanko, you're a past life regressionist, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I actually got one coming up in a couple days that I'm going to do. I like being on the other side, too. The first past life that came to me in big detail was being a pirate in the 1700s. And when I first encountered that past life, there was a couple months where the ego reacted exactly how you predict. Oh, I was a pirate, awesome, rah rah rah, and a bottle of rum. And then once that had solidified, the karma from that lifetime came back in a hurry. And pirating is a morally ambiguous profession on its best days. So all of a sudden, that was coming back to me, and I believe I've processed out most of that lifetime. But that energy that I had kind of like put out during that lifetime had to come back, and that was a wild experience to go through.
Yes. To me, I'm on the same boat as you. I think what you sow, you shall reap. So whatever you put in,
Bible.
that comes back to you. And my experience is that we want this like an instant reaction of whatever we sow to reap. And I think that's the whole point of being here in this density, so that we have the delay to make up our mind. Do we really want it or not want it? Because on the other side, my understanding is that it's instant. You think of
Yeah.
something and boom, it's there.
Yeah.
So if you think of like pirates chasing you. Well, guess what? Pirates are gonna chase you.
Well, I'll get into the physics side of it. I mean, Kerri and I are both familiar with David Hawkins' scale, and the chakra system traces out the same fundamental vibrational spectrum. Yeah, the point of coming into the lower densities is so that you lack power. So there's a long delay time between when you put the energy out and it comes back, and that allows the physical illusion to kind of make sense. But again, as that vibration raises, that time delay, it decreases. So all of a sudden, I find most people in the spiritual community, they want to raise their vibration. That's the unwritten goal of the whole thing. But I'm now kind of saying, be careful, because
I know me and Yanko talk about that all the time, because we do operate in higher vibrations. So yeah, we manifest awesome things, but we also eat shit a lot, because I mean, you really have to be mindful of your thinking, because you start to see things unfold real time, real quick. But I do, for going back to karma, because I really want the listening audience to understand this. You know, there's no good or bad, right or wrong. And I think so often, especially with the ego, right? This like label, this brain that feels like it has to conceptualize stuff. We judge ourselves, and we, oh, karma, I'm bad. It's not about bad. It's just unknowingly you put out energy because you were unconscious, right? You didn't purposefully do it. How could you judge yourself for doing something when you weren't aware? But now, as you grow in consciousness and awareness, you then can apply the understanding of the universal laws, which Nick just referenced and Yanko and I talk about a lot in our show, so that you can start to send out energy purposefully that you want to come back. And that's why when we talk about sending out, no thought is ever separate. So if I think negatively, I'm still sending out energy. And so being able to be aware of those patterns and thought processes and behaviors, and then making a different change, because when you send out loving energy, that shit comes back to you too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like how you framed that there is no absolute good or bad. Even negative energy, I mean, that's an experience. You put it out and you feel the effects of it. That's part of the learning experience of this dimension. I'm enjoying watching Game of Thrones right now again. That's not a high vibrational spiritual show, but it's good. It's fun to see consciousness at that level. I mean, that's like about 190 on the Hawkins scale, to see a world that's operating at that vibration where kind of villainy and dishonesty is running it. And that's an experience that you couldn't have without these lower vibrations. I'm personally kind of on the, generally, I think I don't want to hang out there too often, but it's kind of like a carnival ride, you puke on the ride, you have some fun, and then it's like, no, thank you.
I mean, it's like energy runs itself out. I think ultimately, when the desire is fulfilled, there's nothing behind to push that desire to watch whatever or do whatever or be whatever, because that energy that you put out, it runs itself out, and there's nothing to push you in that direction. But that's how I think of it.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, that's, once the energy isn't there, I played video games a lot as a youth. There's just nothing there anymore. I don't get the chill from them anymore. It's like, oh, this is a simulation within a simulation. I got what I need from it. So and there was no need to ever like say, I'm going to quit. I'm going to stop. Just like the energy runs out and you don't need this experience. You got what you needed. So now on to the next.
Well, the irony is you're exactly right. And that's why I find it so fascinating that people try to control things all the time. Control, control, control. Because not only are they expending more energy trying to manipulate the situation, but it's inevitable that it's gonna flush itself out however it's supposed to unfold anyway. So I'm like,
Right.
you gotta ride the wave. Now, granted, to your point, Nick, right? You and I, and I'm sure Yanko too, are in like of growth, consciousness and stuff. But I also know with all things there will be an end. So it's just riding the wave of discomfort, knowing that this too shall pass, literally. So
Yep.
Well, the
Every
good thing
beginning has
about
an
this
end.
dimension is I think you learn a lot of things from the absence of it. You learn the value of truth by experiencing not truth. You learn the value of love by experiencing not love, and so you have to ride that negative wave to see the positive. Newton's third law: every force there's an equal and opposite
yep.
counter. So you can't experience the upper part of the wave without experiencing the lower part of the wave. And there's that spiritual saying: you can only go as high as you've been low. I can speak for Kerri based on our conversations, and I'm assuming that we've been on the low part of the wave in this lifetime. So I guess in a weird way, that's good news for us.
Because now you get to experience the other side.
Yeah. But also, I think it gives me the ability to have a lot of empathy and compassion. Yes. Like, I truly can love somebody outside of wherever they're at in their experience pretty well. Yeah. Unless I live with you for a long time, and I'm speaking about somebody right now and I love them very much, but I just don't like being around them. But other than that, like I do, it's true. I can love well, and it's because I've been through the wars. And so I can see suffering and what the toll it takes on people. And I want to be the light in their darkness.
Yeah. I think, I understand that paradox. I say, I love everyone. I don't like everyone. Like at massage school right now, I'm going through with the most eclectic group of personalities that you can imagine. And it's just beautiful to just be an observer of all these different energies at various stages of unfolding. But at the same time, the energy just with all those personalities is chaotic. And then by the end of the day, I'm the first one out the door. And when you live with someone, like I live in this house basically alone in the middle of the woods. So I got a lot of space to be me. So I'm blessed in that way. But you can love everyone, but then like you need your own you need your own space.
Well, yeah, and I think that's something that I am starting to come to is that I love very well, but that does not mean I'm supposed to do life with everybody. And that means I'm not supposed to do life with some of my direct family members that I did life with at one point in time. And that goes to the Buddhist teachings where it talks about you being born into one family, dying into another, because we came into this human experience for expansion. And once you've expanded out of that lesson, there's really no reason to continue to engage.
Yeah.
And when I do, it's almost like force. It's that control. It's that not allowing the flow of life to be what it is, which sometimes means cutting the cord and no longer doing life with individuals that you once did life with.
Yeah, the way I frame it in my book, I'm 46 years old. Every 7-year chunk of this life has been a completely different thing. Yep. So the cast of characters I was a nuclear engineers in the military with, as soon as that was done, for the most part, that entire group kind of I vibrated out of that group. Same with the teaching crowd, and Yeah, and like you're always put it. One thing I have faith in is the universe always plops you into a situation that's optimal for your growth.
Yep.
Yeah, but that 7 year mark kind of resonated with something else that I was seeing in a couple of places, where it says that every year you go from each chakra going up for in 7, because you know how the system is with the you talk about
that's
it
exactly
and
how I frame it in my book, and I'll just say that I didn't get that from anywhere. That was a direct download, and
I'm
and then
glad
since I
that
published, I've been finding other people going through that same thing, where it's like a 7-year evolution cycle that even ties into biology a little bit, and that every 7 years we're a completely different group of cells, because all those cells, they've died and our body has produced a whole nother set of cells. So our physical body is actually a sum total of our vibrational experience over the last 7 years.
That is such a great way to communicate that truth, Nick. And I love that, because that's where I have a hard time. You know, I truly believe words have power, words have a vibration. And you know, you and I talked extensively, and I'm gonna say this because Yanko always says this to me. I'm not a doctor, so blah blah blah. You can't sue me because I'm not claiming to know my shit. But I'm gonna tell you right now, this is where Western medicine keeps people sick, because people feed illness. It's like, oh, I have an ache. Oh my God, it's this, and then it's this. And I start watching people. I was just talking to an individual yesterday. They are on so many mental health medications that they're catatonic. They drool. Okay. And to your point, we do go through physical and mental health issues, but it's for our expansion. It's not to keep us there. It's to expand out of it. But because we feed these stories, we create suffering from something that was really meant for us to expand and to grow past. And so yes, every 7 years your body regenerates, right? So I mean, it's regenerating all the time, but every 7 years you are a brand new set of cells. So this idea of chronic illness, it's all mind. It's all mind.
Yeah. I'll just say, in defense of the droolers, I drool and I'm on no medication. So, you know.
Listen, that's great. But when you can't function, when you literally just exist, you have no emotions, you are literally medicated to have no emotions at all, which I see still to this day. And that baffles me, because we're doing a gross disservice to the human evolution. That's a problem. It just simply is. I'm sorry. Like, that's my personal opinion. And I really don't care what anybody else thinks, because I grew up with a family that was over medicated, and I see what it does to their human experience, and it's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I have my little dowsing pendulum, and I've gone through my hard times, and every single time I've wondered, you know, because I'm a veteran, so I could go to the VA and get a lot of those feel good drugs for free, probably, and I always get no. So whatever pain I'm going through, I have to feel. And to go on your point, Kerri, I was a teacher in an inner city school for 14 years, and I had to try not to judge it too much, but it's like those kids were just being fed drugs, and it's
control.
And
it's all about control. Let's control the mass population. Think about, look, I mean, my family's very diverse. I'm very familiar with the narratives around young kids who, they're too active, they're too energetic, there's something wrong with them, they need to be medicated. No, motherfucker, they're a little kid that shouldn't be sitting in school for 6 hours. They need to be outside playing. And then you wonder why we, like, don't get me started. Like, I get fired up about this because it does matter, and it really is all about control. But people are starting to wake up to the realization that our structure never worked. It's doing nothing. And we're outgrowing it. And actually, somebody I was talking to at Nana's job the other day, she quoted a podcast she heard, and I loved it. And whoever this woman is said, "Hell can't stop heaven from coming because it's already here."
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know Yanko. Well, I'll go what my experience with in 14 years in the American education system was. My first couple of years, I mean, it's to me, I thought physics. That's really fun. It's movement. It's boomerangs. So I took the kids outside all the time. And every year they made it a little bit harder to do. It's like you need to get allergies for all the kids, and then you need to get permission slips. And by the end, I couldn't even bring the kids outside. And it's like let the kids be the kids. That's to me the better solution than drugging them up so they'll sit still for.
Right. I mean, I have a little one that likes to run around, and if I let him run around and go out and climb trees and do whatever he wants to do, guess what? When he go home, he just lays down. He's like, "I'm tired. I want to sleep." You're out of energy. Yeah. So, but hang on. I want to bring out our audience that are watching us. There's some comments. I want to acknowledge the people that are chatting with us. Ask your questions. I don't know. Oh my God, the voice and accent. So
it's gonna be Yanko.
I don't know. It could be me.
Guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Then and we got some same.
Thank you.
Same person. So we know you guys are out there. If you want to jump in and ask us questions, we'll acknowledge you. Sometimes we go on tangents and we talk about whatever we're inspired. But, you know, we're also here for you. Yeah. So there you go.
What else you got?
Oh, me?
Anybody?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me.
I mean, listen, you know, I can talk the full hour all by myself. So.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting experience being in the education system for 14 years because it's like we just got to let the energy flow, and it was like we were so worried about something bad going. Kind of downloaded this like it's almost like we're so worried about the bottom of the wave, like some kid having an allergic reaction if we went outside, or like not being able to get back in the building. I went 6 years and nothing wrong happened. And I understand the administration, they don't want to get sued and everything. But at some point, if you try to eliminate anything bad from happening, at the same time, you eliminate anything good from happening at the same time. Those two poles of physics are connected, and that's not life. Like in 100%. The drugs, they prevent the negative emotions sometimes, but they also prevent the positive emotions. So if the over medicated, you end up in a zombie state, and I've seen that also, and it's like,
well,
I think that's what our experience down here is supposed to be.
My beautiful, amazing daughter, who's graduating in 2 weeks, oh my God, just said she agrees with whatever somebody said, and she loves me, so I love you very much. And I actually happened to see that Jack showed up on Instagram. The reason I mentioned that, so this individual is part of the cosplay community that Nana is in. And when we're talking about over medicating our youth and individuals, talk about a 360, like the complete opposite, where you have Nana and people like Jack and Dusk and all these individuals who, instead of conforming, they are finding outlets that bring them joy, because joy ultimately is the greatest like tool for good mental health. Instead of being on medication, go find what brings you joy, and you immediately start to build a positive energetic momentum that starts to show up in other areas of your life, which is why I'm always passionate about supporting my children, my loved ones, Nana, in doing whatever makes them happy, because in that we don't need to medicate anybody because they're already experiencing fullness, like they're already happy, And then in terms of fear, to your point, Nick, when we make policies and procedures out of fear, we inevitably disempower everybody. Because we're going to actually bump ourselves. We're going to have a peanut allergy occasionally. We're going to cut ourselves with a knife, which my nephew did yesterday because I let my 3-year-old nephew play with a knife to cut up an apple. Yeah, I could say, oh my God, you're 3. Or I could be like, well, you're going to learn how to use a knife. Then he did, and he was fine. But I did that from love. But if I'm like, oh my God, you can't cook with me, you can't do this, you can't do that, well, then I'm disempowering him. He's not going to learn what he needs to learn to then make more informed choices. And that's where all of our societal structures don't serve people.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, my first.
Go. Do you want to go? Sorry.
Oh yeah, just all the fear and the just the metaphysics of it. Yeah, when you put out that fear, inevitably it comes back. That's my some qualms with some of the systems they have. I think they're well-meaning in their heart, but there's precautions. So they're putting out that fear energy, and then that manifests it in the cycle. And like my first memory from this lifetime, I woke up in the water. I'm 46 years old. I don't think this is a approved technique anymore, but my grandfather I was 2 years old, he threw me into the deep end of a public pool. That's how I learned to swim. And I don't have fear of the water now. And I know the parenting experts and everyone would say that's probably not something you're supposed to do now, but you know what? I thought it was the perfect thing. And I was terrified during that. All of a sudden, I'm in like this little chubby body, like, what's going on? My little soul, all of a sudden now I'm in the water. Well, guess what? I learned to swim. It worked. So
I think that I think that some of the abilities we already have, if you believe in incarnation, that you already have mastered in previous lives, and that's why you're not drawn to the same things in this lifetime. Yeah. Like, say, if you master painting or doing music or something else, you could still be great at it, but you're just not drawn in that direction. You're not doing it for like money or to expand or anything. And this is why I think, if you allow the body to do what the body does, because the body does a lot of things that we think we should control, like growing your hair, nails, other things, and beat your heart, knows how to do things for you. But then the mask you wear comes in and steps in and says, I know better, I'm gonna do this instead to keep you healthy. And to circle back to what we talked about earlier, I think a lot of the things are nowadays more synthetic, and you have not only medication, but then you got foods that are not even like original code. They're not even the same code of like how everything it's created. They're so modified and twisted, and then at the end you're just kind of like almost taking the medication and having allergies and other things like that, because I think we forget where we're coming from and we get disconnected from the whole.
Well, I will say, I do want to say this. People inherently go for a quick fix, at least in the society, and I see it all the time, right? And case in point, Ozempic, like these GLP-1s that everybody is the newest rage. Like, we really do want a quick fix. And what happens is over time, it stops working and we need to go up and up and up. Now, the reality is, if you're struggling with deep depression and you need to go on a medication temporarily so that you can pull yourself out of that depression, I have no issue with that, right? Temporary tools to help you learn tools that you can empower yourself with is absolutely something that even I, at one point in my life, needed to use. What I do take issue with is overconsumption. It's like, this isn't working anymore, I'm gonna take more. This isn't, and not taking responsibility for the fact that nobody's coming to save you. Nobody can learn yourself for you. Nobody can figure out your true, unique purpose in this lifetime. Only you can do that. And you're not gonna do that by over consuming or looking for a quick fix or something. Because, and I shared this with an individual yesterday, suffering cracks you open to greater depths of expansion. Like, it cracks you open into learning your capabilities and your gifts, but you won't learn those if you just try to numb out the suffering. You kind of have to go through the messy middle and eat the shit.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Kerri. Yeah, because our suffering and our greatness are connected, and and I always think genius and madness are a little bit connected too. And I'm glad you mentioned that about medication, because I don't like taking black and white positions anymore, like particularly on medication. Some people, if that's what you need to get out of a really deep hole, I'm not going to judge it. And to circle back to something what Yanko said about the past life stuff coming back, but you're not living it anymore. My biggest proof of that in this lifetime was I went to Navy OCS, and I'm an autistic. I'm not built for the military in this lifetime. I handled it, and I'm thankful for the experience. But if you think I'm the military type, not. And so I was going through the typical, the military indoctrination process, and I was struggling. And what turned things around for me was a weird thing. We went to the gun range one day, and I'm not a gun person in this lifetime. I have really no opinion on the issue from a public point of view, but I had never touched a gun before that day in this life. At the range, I qualified for the Marine Corps sharpshooter ribbon, because even though I hadn't touched guns in this lifetime, I had in the past. And
this pirate life, yes.
And I'm not planning on being a gun guy in this lifetime. But it's nice to know that if things ever get dicey, hopefully that will come back. Not that I'm praying for that, but just past life, it kicks in when you need it.
I was in the military, and kind of the same way. I had experience with like shooting automatic weapons, like grenade launchers, disarming like a landmines, doing other things like that. And it wasn't fun. It was just like part of what is kind of like life. It's happening. You're going through different things, and some things you enjoy, some things you don't enjoy as much, and it is what it is. It's like the other side of the spectrum, and it's different. So now, like, I don't have to do that. On the opposite, my brother, it's all about guns and things. So yeah.
Well, having been held at gunpoint, I can tell you I'm not a fan of guns. But I do agree with you, Nick. Like, to each your own about guns. Like, if that suits your fancy, then that's fine. Military is for desperate people. I mean, that's certainly your opinion. I think everybody has their different reasons for going into the military. I can tell you right now, my twin sister went into the military at 30 years old and left her family so that she could pay for her master's degree to become a nurse. And so I think everybody has a very personal reason for joining the military. And I work to respect that. I personally would have been kicked out of the military because I am very oppositional, as you can tell, and I'm not one to bite back my opinion. So I don't think I would have fit in well with people telling me what to do.
Well, while we were in the woods, Yanko, I got to tell a story. We were walking in the woods, and Kerri dropped a bomb on me. She used to be a feminist. What? What? I don't know where that came from. I would have never guessed that.
Well, you know what? My thing is I don't know. I just laugh. I am very, very much a humanist at this point. I want, and we talked about this extensively in the woods, Nick. You know, I have an issue with this idea of, oh, all the women power, healing, all this. We've been stomped down for so long. The reality is we all need to heal, both men and women. I personally work with more men than I do women at this point, and I can tell you from having like a hostage. No, I don't look like somebody who's taken the hostage. I mean, dang. No, but I can tell you that we're all operating from unconscious patterns, programs, and conditions. Every single one, women and men. And so when you really look at it from that perspective, you realize that we're all working to discover ourselves outside of what we've been taught. And in that respect, I am a humanist because I want everybody to be able to recognize their intrinsic powers, their gifts that they offer the world, and realize that they co-create with creation, and that you no longer have to live the life that you've been kind of subscribed to because that's all you ever known. You have the power to break free from that paradigm and exist in a life that feels truly supportive, nurturing, and loving for you. Very individualistic, you know.
I completely agree with that. And funny, our journey is kind of, I think I've had every political opinion imaginable at some point during this journey. And it's, yeah, we talked about in the woods, Kerri and I, our childhoods were as different gets. Matter of fact, we were joking that at 18, if we saw each other 18, we would have hated each other's guts probably. Like it would have been fire and water. But we've arrived at a lot of the same places through an opposite journey. I think that's a lot of what intelligence is. Can you see someone who's had a very different experience, is seeing a different version of the world, and can you find common ground?
Yep.
I was going to take it a step even deeper and say, if you want to put a label on yourself, go ahead. Put yourself in a box. Be a man, be a woman, be a sports fan, or whatever you want to be. That's just another separation. You keep separating yourself in different camps, different preferences, whatever you prefer. Even the part of being human, I think it's also a box, because ultimately you're just consciousness playing itself out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a human. You're just in a human body right now. But if you want to be a human, sure.
Not a human.
I mean, once you get to a point where you start connecting with other things, you get it. Yeah.
But I also think for concept wise, even you identify as a computer programmer when you're at work doing that specific role.
Right.
You identify as a father when you're with your son and you're engaged with. Like the reality is you and I don't have to. We can know that we are co-creators with creation, which ultimately is what we are, and still in this conversation recognize that we're playing the role of a podcaster. That when I hang up here and jump on the phone with somebody else, I'm playing the role as something else. And that's just a reality. Like we are right. Jumping different experiences, and to be able to contextualize that or put that into concept isn't bad, as long as you realize that's not your true self. Like that's like just the unfolding of the experience you're having in this moment.
Right. And then you're just being, you're in the present. You don't do anything. You don't judge it, good or bad. I mean, ultimately, nothing has a specific meaning unless we give it to it. I think. So
well, it's interesting, like, transcending the ego. It's like I think a part of conscious growth is you realize this whole body you're in, this thing I called Nicholas Faulkner. When I was a kid, that's what I was. I identified with it, and then you transcend it to some degree, and you realize you're not that. You're the energy field behind it, whatever you want to call that. And then actually the real work begins, because like, well, this body is still there, this personality is still there, so you got to run with it, and you're gonna have the experience you're gonna have on Earth. And it's like, okay.
I'm just going back and reading the comments. Well, so for Erwin Curtis, I would say that gets to be your experience, your common ground. You keep your blinds closed and your doors locked. I mean, Yanko and I talk about this a lot because we both are in expanded consciousnesses where we could go into the woods and just get lost by ourselves, right? And yet we make a personal choice to engage with human society so that way we can, experience contrast and have different experiences, but we are all unique strains of one consciousness, and we all get to determine the experience that we're having. And I believe, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what all three of us really work to embody for other people, is other people recognizing that this is your trip and you get to have the experience you want to have in this world.
Yeah, exactly. And that trips some people off too, because when they come in and say, "Oh, I'm having this going on in my life and this and that," and I say, "Hey, this is what you want, so enjoy it." Well, I'm not enjoying it. Well, what do you mean you're not enjoying it? You created it. You wanted it for yourself. So here it is. Change it if you don't like it. You don't have to go through the thing. All you got to do is just take that decision and change it.
Yeah. I'm reading the comments too. I don't know if I can participate, but I'll get the technology worked out. But I always enjoy reading the negative comments too, because they're just so funny. Because after a while, they just kind of bounce off of you, and it's just, and that's the most entertaining aspect of life. It's like
exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, is we're all we are all subject to all of the noise that we put ourselves like me and Nana talked about this. We put ourselves out in society. So we're going to catch all different people's experiences about how we show up. And I get it all the time. And I have a sole responsibility to honor what feels good for me and not concern myself with the good opinion of somebody else or try to change their opinion, because they get to have that. It doesn't make them right or wrong.
Oh yeah, exactly. To comment on Erwin's, I worked at Walmart for 18 months, and you wouldn't think of Walmart after being a nuclear engineering teacher that's a place you would spiritually develop. But the variety of people you see working at Walmart, like, that's an experience that you cannot pay. You cannot pay for. Well, and they actually paid me, not a lot, but they did pay me. But yeah, it's amazing the things that go on in the back room of a Walmart. It's like, wow. It's like, and then you realize every experience is a treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
Erwin, you know what? I am glad that you have found what feels good for you, because you know what? One thing I really, truly, fundamentally trust in is honor thyself and honor what feels good for you. And then you do live a joy-filled life. And I believe it was you who said you don't suffer. Somebody did. And if that is what creates a life that feels joy-filled and that you can feel empowered and at peace with, good for you, good on you.
Spralmart.
I think the universe will push you where you need to be, and you see the experience, not take it. But if you want to be engaged in the experience, then you can play that role to the extent where you make it a really fun role. Because sometimes that's what I think. If I'm in a position when something is unfolding and I got like some kind of funky idea, I go like, well, let's see how we can spice this up and make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Get in character really good.
Well, there's some rules. There's some. I think it's philosophical, but the universe always causes the most interesting thing to happen, and as consciousness expands, you see these more and more wild scenarios playing out, and it's just, quite frankly, it's a fun show to watch.
unless you put your color glasses on it and call it a good or bad,
Yeah.
So yeah,
It is an experience, that's for sure. This amazing wild ride that we are in right now. But the thing is, we're limitless, so we do have the opportunity to have endless experiences. And that's what I laugh about, because I'll read these stories that seem totally ridiculous, but I know that there's a probability to it, because if consciousness itself is limitless, then what prevents any and all of the experiences that might come across my whatever life? Who's to say that they didn't happen? You never know.
Well, timelines have a potentiality.
That's exactly what I was gonna go with this and say. You can experience different timelines. Go ahead, share your opinion.
Oh, okay. It's I don't like, when you go on social media, it's very, like, you can see how, like, particularly, like, I see a lot of people, particularly in the political arena, they're arguing about facts, and from the conventional point of view, part of that is because people are trying to put everything on the same timeline, but there's multiple timelines playing out in this this reality. That's what the Arcturians are downloading into me. So I grew up in a timeline where the conventional American history was true, and I still believe that. But you realize that, like, I can be on a timeline where this version of history happened. Kerri can be on a timeline where this version of history happened, and then we can go for a walk in the woods and discuss our different experience, and hopefully, two intelligent beings, you can find common ground, because ultimately we're two beings looking at the same hologram from a different angle. And something that's obvious to me is the word angel and angle. They almost sound the same, because they're the same thing. We're all those things looking at this creation of God from a different angle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the timelines are a real thing. At least to me. I don't know about other people. I can only share my experience. When you shift timelines, things change in your outside world, like phone numbers, other things, buildings on streets appear, disappear, things happen. If you're conscious enough to like pay attention of what's going on around, and it's interesting. Yeah, that's all I can say. But don't take my word for it. Go ahead and experience it yourselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how can you experience it? Suspend what you think you know and be open to the greatest good for all. And I tell people, or I encourage people to consider, when you decide that you know something, you've just closed your mind off from getting information about anything else. Once you have determined that you have the information or you have something solid, you limit yourself. But if you say, I'm open to all possibilities, and I always say in the greatest good of the collective, because that to me is a loving energy, well, then whatever is meant to come into your experience will come in, and you'll start to open up, have more awareness, have more experiences that are outside of what you're familiar with. And that is the growth of your consciousness. That is your expansion.
Yeah. As soon as the mind says, I know, that seems to lock you into a timeline. And
Yep.
then you're at the effects of Newtonian physics, essentially. Like then cause and effect, you're stuck on that one thing, where when you open your mind up to all the potentialities, and then you kind of unlock yourself. And actually that's when quantum mechanics starts to come in, and you realize you're changing everything as you observe it. And that's when miracles can happen, because a miracle is just it's a timeline jump that
Yep.
can't be, and you can't explain that with the logical mind. Like the 400s on the dot scale is always baffled by that, and I'm amazed because you get locked into that causality, that cause and effect. And yeah, that's negotiable, we'll just say. And I'm speaking that as a
Well, I'm glad you
former.
brought in the mind thing, because that's exactly the example you give it. Sometimes the mind gets shocked because the mind, it's getting in the patterns. It's familiar with things, doesn't want things to change. It doesn't want to, like, I already know I'm this and that and everything else. And I think, to a point, that's what gets in the way of, because a lot of people take it as what they are. They take the mind to be themselves, and they say, I am the mind, and this is it. Or I am this body, or I am this feelings, or whatever else they associate with, which is not. And then when you get like a miracle or something else happen to you, and the mind cannot explain it, then there goes this like moment when it's just like, something's going on. I don't know how to put words to this. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, gentles, men's, this has been lovely, but we got to jump because I have to go and meet with an amazing person. So, for the listening audience, Erwin and all others, thank you so much for commenting. I appreciate all of your energetic exchange, whether it's one comment or an engaging in the conversation. I really do appreciate it. Nick, you're welcome to join us any Friday you're free. This was a beautiful conversation and engaging. And of course, you and me jive outside. So I vibe with you. And Yanko, I love you. So anybody have anything you want to leave the listening audience with before we peace out?
No, thank you for having me on the show. And I'm going to go out for a walk in the woods. I'll say hi to your little tree friend. And and God bless everyone. And thank you all for being. This is an interesting time we're living in, and we're all playing our little role.
That's right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the energy exchange. Thanks for hanging out with us. And share, like, subscribe, whatever you feel like, whatever you're inspired to do. And we'll see you next time.